Mrs. Palmer stands firm, her words tinged with threats. Eventually, she reluctantly admits she knows it's not hers. She needs Annie to paddle the boat for her, providing a false sense of comfort while keeping her shaky marriage afloat like a sinking ship. When she asked about Greer, Annie agreed without batting an eye, causing Mrs. Palmer's lips to quiver. It was the only pride she had in her otherwise foggy life. This weekend, Annie took a half-day off, but Mrs. Palmer, exhausted like a frog, asked her to watch Greer and take him to art galleries. Mrs. Palmer's betrayal left Annie puzzled. She planned a small revenge to ease her loss. So, she made the bold choice to ditch the art trip and instead drag Greer into the slums, a fantasy land her mum thought was off-limits. Fed up, Annie decided to toss all those boring rules aside and whimsically lead Greer out of the ivory tower. Finally, Greer got to taste what it's like to be a normal kid. Free from upper-class false glamour, he savoured life's joys like a freed bird. She caught the frantic rhythms of life from the hustling masses and even glimpsed the secrets lurking in the subway shadows. These were new to her, but easily accessible to Annie before. They visited the Natural History Museum, showcasing many dinosaur models. The ancient relics ignited Greer's curiosity, and he had a fulfilling and meaningful morning with Annie by his side. She thought she could rest a bit, but Mrs. Palmer returned with the whole, forcing her help, and she was told to attend a babysitter's party that night. She subtly reminded Mrs. Palmer about her day off, but it seemed insignificant compared to the promise of keeping her job, so she ended up at this vaguely dull social gathering. The theme of the party was equal communication with babysitters, but the babysitters turned into wallflowers while the socialites lounged, inspecting them like human props. Each socialite gave exclusive critiques of the nannies, with the only agreement being they fell short. Nannies had grievances, but could only take the blame, turning friendly chats into one-sided complaint sessions. Seeing the situation spiraling, the host quickly handed the mic to a nanny, who had zero courage to counter. The host's gaze locked onto Annie. Subtitles. She was requested to offer a few tentative remarks. Annie cast a glance at Mrs. Laura, clearly aware that she needed to keep some strength in reserve, prompting the host to keep pressing her for the truth. Mrs. Palmer nodded for her to relax, so she finally dropped the big bomb about needing time off, leaving Mrs. Palmer looking a bit flustered. She vaguely cited being swamped with work, but that evening, Mrs. Palmer snatched Greer away with a smile, urging her to enjoy her weekend. She followed friends to a West End bar and unexpectedly met Haddon. Her friends quickly noticed their old friend Link and purposely caused trouble to draw his attention. Haddon didn't disappoint, calling out Anna's name. Seeing her summoned, her friend dragged her over to their table. Haddon's friends, all from prestigious universities, mercilessly joked about Anna's job. Haddon's efforts to stop them were futile. Annie felt the sting of being mocked, but instead of retreating, she confronted them head-on, resulting in an awkward silence soon after. She soon got Haddon's apology message, eager to apologize in person, no matter what. On the outside, Annie appeared unfazed, but inside, a storm was brewing as she had to admit she had the crush on the noble Haddon. The next day, she got a terrifying call her mother was coming to inspect. Annie knew refusal was impossible, so she agreed and quickly asked a friend to stay at their place. On the visiting day, they acted together to deceive her mother. All went well until a call came. Mrs. Palmer urged her to go home quickly for Greer's birthday party, saying she had received roses. Next to the roses was a note of apology. At the birthday party, Mrs. Palmer invited a few French clowns to put on a show for Greer. Meanwhile, Mr. Palmer learned that Greer hadn't been accepted into the international school and took out his frustration on his wife, complaining about her parenting methods. Annie sought peace but met Haddon, who came to apologize, holding discarded roses and explaining Mrs. Palmer threw them away. She seized the chance to arrange a meeting. Annie, feeling forced, agreed. After Haddon left, Mrs. Palmer called her. Mrs. Palmer believed Annie didn't educate Greer well and hired a consultant for evaluation. Greer, disliking clowns, avoided his mother and rushed to Annie. Though Mrs. Palmer and Greer share an unbreakable bond, their hearts are worlds apart. The consultant threw a barrage of questions at her, all of which Greer's parents were dying to ask, doing nothing for Greer's growth, and they talked till midnight. She almost missed her date with Haddon and ended up missing the dinner reservation. In the end, Haddon took her up to the stairs. Embarked on their first date under the night sky, chatting about love, philosophy, and then life. Upon learning she was pretty dissatisfied with her job, Haddon urged her to resign early. After all, everyone compromises. Annie included her life wasn't as easy as Haddon's. However, Haddon quickly refuted her view, unveiling until past behind her glamorous look. She lost her mother at 4. With her father away on business trips for years, her childhood was filled with the shadows of 9 different nannies. While others enjoyed parental love, she didn't. She then boldly confessed to Annie, who didn't respond yet. Back in the apartment, she couldn't hide her feelings, rushing upstairs for an intimate night with Hayden. It was magical. Paul and Laura's anniversary was around the corner, and Laura was as giddy as a child, trying on outfits like a fashion show junkie before settling on a stunning red. She sought opinions from Greer and Annie and made a quick call to Paul. She couldn't wait for tonight's dinner, daydreaming about the joyous moment with her husband, but soon Annie received a call from Paul. He told her his flight was delayed and wouldn't return tonight. Though unable to hear him, Mrs. Palmer knew the truth. A few minutes later, ignoring her son's pleas, she left the cold house for the hot springs. Not long after she left, Gray broke out in a fever, but at that critical moment, Mrs. Palmer was ghosting Annie. She reached out to a friend for help, who reminded her that her mother was a qualified nurse. Now, she was really stuck between a rock and a hard place.